All right, let's talk about something I think we've all seen happen. A friend, maybe a family member, who's always been around. And then suddenly, they just vanish. The texts go unanswered, they stop showing up, and poof, without a big fight or anything, they're just gone. And you're left scratching your head, right? Like, why? Why do some people just completely disappear from your life? It's this pattern that can feel so confusing, and honestly, it can really sting when you're on the outside of it. And naturally, our brains hate a vacuum, so we start filling in the blanks. We tell ourselves stories. Oh, they're just being cold, or they must be so arrogant now. Sometimes we even think they're being intentionally cruel, or we just write them off as emotionally unstable.
But here's the thing. What if all of those assumptions are completely missing the mark? Because psychology shows us that there is a totally different story going on just beneath the surface. It's rarely ever that simple.
This right here, this really breaks it down. It's the myth versus the mind. So on one side, you've got what it looks like to us, arrogance, cruelty, instability. But on the other side, that's what's really happening inside. It's not malice, it's psychological overload. It's not instability, it's a powerful act of self-preservation, an attempt to heal. So let's get into the nitty-gritty. We're going to unpack the 5 key psychological reasons people go silent. And the most important thing to remember through all of this is what it says right there. This isn't an attack on others, it's a defense of the mind. First up, and this one is probably the biggest driver of them all, it's called psychological overload. The best way to picture it is to think of your brain as a computer that has way too many tabs open. You've got constant conflicts, you're dealing with nonstop criticism, or maybe you've just become the emotional dumping ground for everyone. And eventually, the whole system just crashes. This isn't a weakness, it's a biological limit. And when that limit gets hit, the brain does the only thing it knows how to do. It goes into full-on protection mode. It's like pulling the emergency brake. And in that state, creating distance doesn't feel like an option. It feels like the only available oxygen in the room. It's the only path to relief. Okay, on to the second reason, which kind of builds on this idea of hitting a limit. This is what's called a boundary awakening. Now, this doesn't happen to people who have always had great boundaries. Actually, it's usually the exact opposite. This is the person who has spent years, maybe even their entire life, just tolerating way too much from other people. And this just lays it out so perfectly. It's a long, slow burn that leads to a sudden explosion. For years, they put up with disrespect, they ignore their gut feeling, all the red flags, until one day they just hit a wall. And once that breaking point is reached, they're not trying to slowly negotiate. The only thing that feels safe is to just completely remove the source of the problem. The third reason, well, this one is rooted in a really deep and painful experience. It's known as betrayal sensitivity. When someone you trusted deeply hurts you in a profound way, it doesn't just hurt your feelings. It fundamentally rewires how you see the world. Your brain's internal threat detection system basically gets stuck in the on position, making you hyper alert to any sign of potential harm. So from that perspective, cutting people off isn't some wild overreaction. It's actually a pretty logical, if extreme, defense strategy. It's a preemptive move to make absolutely sure they are never, ever that vulnerable or that hurt again. It feels like the only safe option on the table. All right, number 4. This one isn't about a single big event, but more of a chronic state of being. And I have a feeling a lot of you are going to relate to this. Emotional exhaustion. This often happens to the person we all know as the strong friend. You know, the one who is always there to listen, to give advice, to carry the emotional burden for everybody else. They are essentially the unpaid therapist for their entire social circle. But all that emotional labor comes at a cost. Over time, it just leads to severe burnout. Their own energy reserves get so completely drained that their mind starts to desperately crave one thing: peace and quiet. So when they step away, it's not about rejecting people, it's about a desperate need to find a charger before their battery dies completely. And finally, our 5th reason. This one is all about personal evolution. The identity reset. Major life events, a big failure, a traumatic experience, or even a period of incredible personal growth, they can change who you are at your core. It's a phase of what psychologists call identity reconstruction. You are literally rebuilding yourself from the inside out.
And as you change, you start to realize that your old life, your old habits, and yes, even your old relationships, they might not fit the person you're becoming. The distance isn't a personal slight. It's just a natural side effect of growth. You've simply outgrown your old container.
So, how do we wrap our heads around all this? I think it's time we reframe this so-called vanishing act. It's not an act of aggression, it's an act of protection. Let's just say it plainly. Cutting contact is almost never an attack. It's a defense. It is the last-ditch effort of a mind that has been pushed way past its limits and is now doing whatever it can to survive. And hey, if you are the person who has done this, if you've had to pull back and create that distance, I really want you to hear this. You are not cold. You are not arrogant. You are simply protecting an exhausted mind. You are putting your own well-being first, and there is absolutely no guilt in that. So let me just leave you with this final thought. In a world that is constantly demanding our time, our energy, our attention, what if choosing silence, choosing to protect your own mind, what if that isn't a selfish act at all, but is actually the bravest and healthiest thing you could possibly do?